Hi guys, there seems to be a lot of these small portable soldering irons on the market at the moment, and these were sent to me by Sequre. These are the same guys who sent me the mini spot welder, which I reviewed last year, and it worked really quite well. I'll link that video to the end of this one. You can take a look if you're interested. And they asked me if I would make another review for them. So I have been sent these free of charge as review samples, but I'm not being paid to make this review, and I will give an honest opinion of the items. So let's have a look what we have. This one is the S60. And this works on a USB-C power supply. And you can see on the end, if it's going to the focus for you, it says 12 volts, maximum 12 volts. So this is a 12 volt soldering iron. It comes with 3 tips. I can just get them out of the package. Okay. And these are C245 tips. So these are effectively clones, if you like, of the JBC tips, which are actually the same tips that the soldering iron I reviewed a week or so ago. The C210, which was this one, also takes the same size tips. These are fairly easily available from a number of suppliers and manufacturers, and they are generally about 15 euros per tip, maybe a bit less, 12 to 15 euros per tip to buy them. And there's a whole range of different styles. So we have that one. And then we have its Panchito, Spanish, little brother. Yeah. Its little brother. This is the S20 Nano. So this one takes these tips. These are C115 tips. They are smaller, as you can see, if we compare one of these with the C245. You can see the difference in size of these tips, yeah. And again, these are copies, but you can also get JBC original ones. The soldering irons both come with a charger, or rather a power supply, and they come with a little soldering iron stand. They're the same for each model, so that's how they come. And we have these handy little carry cases. Now, before I review these, there's something I find really a bit, I'm not quite sure if I call it interesting or a bit strange about these. If we look at the power supply, and I'll just see if I can zoom down so you can see it. I'll take the protective sleeve off as well, that makes it easier to see. So this is a 5 volts at 3 amps, 9 volts at 2 amps, 12 volts at 1.5 amps, and that's the power supply for the little S20. And if we look at the other one, the S60, again, I'll take the little plastic sleeve off. You'll see that this is exactly the same power supply, the same rating. Now let's have a look at the website for these soldering irons. This is the Sequre S60. You can see the price is $39. Comes with US or EU standard. That will just be the different type of power supply. The soldering iron will be the same. And if you have a look for the S20, you'll find it's actually $45, so it's slightly more expensive, possibly because the tips cost a little bit more money. And you'll see also at the moment there's a store-wide 12% discount code. So $40 less the 12% is about another $5 off roughly. So you're looking around between $34 and $35. So they're not expensive considering they come with a power supply. Whereas the previous little portable soldering iron I looked at, a different manufacturer, didn't come with a power supply. There are options on the tips. I'll just look at this. Yeah, so if you have the 3 tips, which I have, I actually have this version. Okay, so that is $50. Again, with the 12% off, it's about 6 off that, so it's about 44. Let's just look at the S20 in comparison for the prices. Here is the S20, so again in US or EU power supply standard. Again, it comes with the various tips. So 58. So you can see there's about $8 of difference, and the smaller one being the more expensive. But you can, if you want just the one tip, you can actually choose the one you want, which is actually quite nice, and that applies to both of them. With the discount, 12% off. Well, 10% is $5.80, and another fifth of that. It's again, it's about €7 off that price if you were to buy it at the moment with this code. Having looked at the pricing, let's have a look at what we get. So here is the specification. Mentions again C210 soldering tips, which are common. This is the introduction, and this is where it gets interesting, at least to me, and I guess to you. So the S20 runs at 9 volts and has a maximum power of 20 watts. Now our power supply will supply at the maximum, or it's rated, shall we say, at 9 volts 2 amps, which is 18 watts. So that would suggest that the power supply can only provide 18 watts, and I doubt the soldering iron is 100% efficient either. So I'd have to say I don't see how it could provide that power using the supplied power supply. With the S60, that is even more notable because this is a 12 volt iron, 60 watt maximum, and it has the same power supply. Our power supply, 12 volts at 1.5 amps, can only provide 18 watts. It's an 18 watt power supply. So as this is supplied, it would not be capable of providing that power. If we look down a little bit further, we can see a few things like the display flips, I think, yeah, between left and right handed. It has a sleep mode. You can put your own logo on the display. That's fun. Fast heat up. It now mentions that the S60 is actually 30 watt. So here it's saying to us the standard power supply plug supports 30 watt. Well, if the one they provided us as a standard one, it can only provide 18 watts. And I mean, Ohm's law and such like, as they say, it doesn't lie. You can't change the laws of physics, yeah. And the maximum supported power is 60 with a different power supply. Or as they mention here, that if you power it from a power bank, okay. They just show then how it works. Oh, there's a ground point. I'm not quite sure exactly why. It's just a screw that holds it in, but it has a ground point. We have 2 keys, fairly simple to operate. USB-C interface. You can see it as 12 volt. A few suggested uses, and a few more photos with the sizes and the weight. The S60 only weighs 23 grams. It's extremely light. So guys, that's what we have. Now, I've got some ideas how I would like to go about reviewing this soldering iron. We'll start with the S20 first, because this is the one that can operate most closely to its rated wattage with a supplied power supply. This is a 20 watt soldering iron. This is a 18 watt power supply at 9 volts. But I also have this power supply, so this one will provide 9 volts at 3 amps, that's 27 watts. So even allowing for some inefficiency, this can probably provide sufficient power to run this at its rated wattage. So we'll have a look. Let's see whether it makes any difference between the two power supplies on this iron regarding performance. After doing that, we'll have a look at the S60. Now, according to this power supply, again, it's 18 watts if I'm rated at 12 volts, which is the voltage the soldering iron runs at. This one also will provide 12 volts, but at 3 amps, so this is 36 watts. So this, again, cannot actually power the soldering iron at its full rating. I do have on order from AliExpress a 100 watt USB-C. I've decided to buy one just for general use around the workshop. They're about €24, something like that. I thought it would be a useful thing to buy, so not directly related to this. I have actually bought a 100 watt one, which I'm waiting for. What I will do with this one, because I can only drive it up to 36 watts after we've had a play with it, I'll put these tips into my Sugon T26 and see how well they work driven at the full rated power. This will provide 85 watts of power, the power supply in here. So this really is tiny, maximum 9 volts. We have the 3 tips we can try. I think I will have a little play with the bent conical, because I've rather started to like this type of tip. The cable, we can have a look at the cable. So this is the cable that comes with the soldering iron. It's a kind of braided type cable, obviously heat resistant. It's not as flexible as a silicone one. I can just look. So this is a silicone soldering iron cable. This is a braided one, so it's a bit stiffer. We can have a look to see if that causes a problem. And it's, well, I'll actually measure the length and I'll tell you guys how long it is. Yeah, the cable is 1 meter long, so it's a reasonable length. I have the little stand. Yeah, this stands up this way. And we'll have a look at one of these tips. So this is the bent conical one. Just insert it. There's no retaining nut or anything like that. Yeah, that doesn't actually unscrew or rotate. It quite literally just plugs in. This is a tiny thing. And that's it. There's like a little ridge there. It's in. And you can see that. I mean, I've got it in my hand. This is small. Yeah. 13 centimeters, just over 5 inches. For those of you still using funny measurements. With the actual connector on, it's about 17. But the soldering iron itself is about 13 centimeters. So that is small, 5 inches or so. It fits quite nicely into my hand, I will say. I think this should be comfortable to hold. There's no finger guard to stop your fingers slipping off the end, but it doesn't feel like it's going to slip. You know, it feels like I've got a good grip on there. So see how it fits on the, yeah, it just balances on the stand. Nothing special, but it functions. It does what it says on the tin. It's a stand. Okay, let's switch it on. I'll tell you now, I'm a bit uncertain about this braided lead, the flexibility of it, whether that would actually become more flexible with use. I actually am not sure, probably not, but let's see what we get. Yeah, Sequre version 1.06. Do we have to press a button to switch it on? It says stop. Okay, we won't read the manual. It bleeps. Let's just hold it down. Work. Okay, it heats up fast. Overshot a little bit. 294. Can we increase the temperature with this one? Yeah, just a quick touch. 400. I probably don't want quite that much. Yeah, so touching the button seems to actually change the working temperature. Quick touch. This is the set temperature here, as I spotted. 300, 350. 400. 350. Okay. I'll have a quick look to see whether I can actually set that to 380, which is my preferred temperature. As you can see, I have set it to 380 degrees centigrade. I think I did it as much by trial and error as anything else, although there is an instruction book here, so You can see main interface, level 1 menu, level 2 menu. So you have the 2 buttons, and it's a combination of long presses and short presses to actually get into the menus. It was a little bit finicky. I have to say I'm not exactly sure how I did it in the end, but it took me a couple of minutes and I'd got in there and I had done it. So I've set it to 380. The instructions are there. Unfortunately, you probably won't have to do this very often. So I have the soldering iron now set at 380. There were options in there to set the idle temperature and a number of other things, centigrade or Fahrenheit. We can just hold the button in, work, and we're now on. Well, interestingly, I set it to 380 and it's gone to 330. Where's this button? Oh, and 380. Right, so it's effectively, I've actually increased all the preset settings by 30 degrees, but I've done it. Look, they've all actually gone up by 30. Okay, we can live with that. And it certainly melts solder. I'll get a little bit of water in here. We can debate the pros and cons of using a wet sponge rather than like the brass wool, but that's what it came with. Yeah, that's what it came with. Let's see what we can do with it now. Here is an old T-con board. I was using these for soldering practice and for review videos. So let's try and unsolder one of these surface mount devices. I will zoom right down for you. I'll go for one of the small ones to give it a good chance. Okay, so this is a very small component, put a little bit of flux on it. I have the tweezers. Let's see if we can actually do it with this type of tip. Okay, so here we go. I'll do my usual thing also, which is to add a bit of leaded solder. This is what I would normally do. Well, it certainly tinned it. I'm doing this with no magnification, by the way. Let's see if I can solder that. Yeah, definitely. Okay. It's stuck to the tip as they normally do. You can probably see the device there actually on my end of my tweezers. Yeah, there. So for very small things like that, it worked. Yeah, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. That really did work rather well. Let's go for another one. Something a bit bigger. Yeah, it's come right off. That actually surprises me. I've managed to stick it to something else, but that came off really, yeah. And there's the part again on the tweezers. Let's get the microscope so we can have a better look at this. Okay, you can clearly see the part I've just desoldered, or at least one of them. I have it sitting there on the board. Let's have another go. So we'll do this one. Add a bit of leaded solder. Look, you see, it's actually come off. Yeah. Without me even using the tweezers. Let's try another resistor, then we'll try one of the larger capacitors. So we'll put a little bit of flux. I've actually gone for that one, so we'll do that one. No, there's nothing there, it's already been done. That one's gone AWOL. We'll go on this one. And we can try this. So again, this is the bent conical tip. I've started to realise just how good these are actually. So we can come in with the solder. And then this is actually just unsolder. Okay, a bit of solder on both ends. Now let's see if we can unsolder it. Okay, this one obviously has a stronger power plane here, or ground plane. Let's have a go. So we'll come in this way with it, with a good blob of solder on the soldering iron. Yeah, there. So that unsoldered nicely. We can just take the tweezers and there. I have to say, guys, this works surprisingly well. I really didn't expect that at all. Okay, there's the part I've removed. Let's do the capacitor. This is much bigger. I think this will be quite a challenge for it if it can unsolder it at all. But then this probably isn't really designed for this sort of work. Yeah. For this, I would use a much bigger soldering iron, but we'll see. So, once again, a bit of leaded solder. Well, it's certainly tinned it. It's on there, yeah. Other end. Again, it is tinned. Will it desolder it? This is the question. I'd be surprised. No, not like that. Let's just take the temperature up again. So I put up to 430. It's effectively boosted the temperature. Let's have another go. Okay. Yes. Okay, so with the boost, even the large surface mounted capacitor, it's unsoldered. I rather like this, guys. There's one thing I don't like about it, which I kind of mentioned before. You can probably guess, and we'll talk about that after we've done one more demonstration. Let's try soldering something. So to do this, we would first of all need to clean the pads. Let's see how well this does it. So a bit of solder braid. It's actually stuck to the board slightly, so I have it set back onto 380. Maybe it wants a little bit of a boost to do this. No, it's done it pretty well actually. Let's also do this one. So this is the larger pad. Yeah. Yeah, so that's cleaned up okay. Now let's add a little bit of fresh leaded solder to both of them. Okay. Okay, and then we'll try and solder some components back on. We'll now come in with the component, so I'm coming in right-handed with the component, left-handed with the soldering iron. I am right-handed, so this is not my preferred hand. And I clearly don't have the component flat. Okay, I have the resistor basically in place. I have my little bit of solder on the board. So let's warm this up and let's see if we can solder it. Yep, that's got it. Second time. Okay, we'll now do the other end. So the other end should have enough solder already, I would think. I'll put a little bit fresh on the tip. Okay. I can hold the resistor down and then solder this end. Yeah, that went nice. I'll just clean up the other end again. Okay, let's get a bit of isopropyl and just clean that and then we can have a look. Yeah, it's a little bit untidy, but it is soldered down. As I did mention, I'm much better with an optical microscope than the USB one. Okay, let's do the larger capacitor as well. Okay, bit of flux. Here is our capacitor. This is quite a bit larger. Again, I will actually use the tweezers right-handed, and we can bring the soldering iron in with the left hand. Let's see how this goes. Okay, I don't have it flat. Now I think it is flat. Yeah, and then we can just solder the other end. Just have enough solders already. Yeah. Okay, so you can see it. That is soldered rather better than the other one did. Just try and focus that. Yeah, that's basically flat on the board. Probably a bit too much solder, but it's certainly soldered down. I have to say, and I'm being completely honest now, I was really surprised at how well this performs, given the fact it's using the little power pack that came with it. I was going to try this with the larger USB power pack, but considering this one can almost drive it to its rated value anyway, and considering how well it worked, I think I won't actually bother unless somebody would really like to see that. I don't think it's likely to prove anything particularly. What we can do is try the other soldering iron, the S60, which apparently is very underpowered, using the supplied power supply, and see how well that works, and then we can try it with a larger one. This one, I have to say, the one thing I don't like about it is the cable. It's not flexible enough for my personal comfort. It works, but I would much prefer to see a silicone cable, but other than that, I think it works fine. And one thing I actually very much do like is the little holder, the little pack it comes in is actually designed such that you can insert the soldering iron with the tip still inserted, or with a tip still inserted. So very pleasantly surprised with that one, guys. Let's have a look at the other one. Okay, so I have this one set to 380 degrees centigrade, same as the other one. You can see this one is running at 12 volts, which is as it should do. Let's try unsoldering a resistor like we did with the other one. We'll go for this one. Bit of flux as before. Just get the soldering iron in here. Okay, got a bit of leaded solder on it. Okay, try again. I have to say, guys, this doesn't seem to tin as well as the other one. Look, you see there. Okay, let's see if we can actually unsolder it. So I'll come in from one end as I did before. Get a little bit of solder on the iron. Let's see how well it goes. Yeah, it does unsolder, but I have to say I don't think it does it as easily as the other one does, to be honest. Try another one. Yeah, we'll go for this one. Flux. Okay. Leaded solder. Okay, we've got a bit on there, other end, bit on there. Let's try it. Yeah, that one it is struggling with. Yeah, let's go from both ends at once and see if we can get it. Yeah, we can if we do from both ends at once, but we can't get it as easily as the other iron works. It seems for some reason that when this is running at the low power 18 watts, the same as the other one, it struggles more. I don't know if it's whether it's a longer tip. We'll talk about it later, I think. Let's try on these big components then. So with the other iron we could do them, but we had to hit from both ends. Let's try it. So again, we'll come in with some leaded solder. Leaded solder. Let's see if we can actually get it from one end. But the other iron couldn't do this either, and to be quite honest, it's not the way I would normally remove capacitors. I would have to go this way. Okay. Yeah, so we did get it. I have to use the tweezers to move it. Just try it again. I miss my stereo vision when I'm trying to do it this way. Okay, but I've got it. I have to say, I don't think this works as well as the little C115 did. Let's see if we can try it on the higher powered USB-C supply and see what it does there. Well guys, would you believe it? I plugged this power supply in and it's not working. I think it made a bit of a funny noise and now it isn't working. I've tried this back on another device, the one it came with. It doesn't power up, but I've put this back on its original power supply and this is working. So it's nothing with the soldering iron. It looks like my power supply is packed in. We'll have to make a video with that, yeah. So I can't actually do what I said, which was to try this on a suitably rated power supply. When I say suitably, I mean something that can actually power it. But what I can do is try the tip in my T26D and we can just see how it performs and if it makes any real difference to the performance of the soldering iron. There are some of you who will say, and you are absolutely correct, that it is practically impossible to make comparative tests when doing this because the thermal mass of the tracks around the components will vary from one to another. You can't say that I'm doing like for like, but what we can say, for example, is this resistor has quite heavy ground and power planes by it. It actually looks like both ends are connected together, but I doubt they are. So we'll pick that one. I mean, that looks like it might require a bit of heat. I'm using the same tip which I was using in the S60, but in my T26 instead. And if it makes a big difference, we can probably say that having the tip running at the lower power rating is affecting the performance of it. I'll do this like for like. So I'm set to 380, so I have the same temperature. So let's see what it does. So this is a resistor here, this one. We can heat up both ends. This is the same tip. Right, let's try it from one end now. Yeah, and that definitely desoldered, and I'm sure you will say that did it easier. We'll have to do a few more to get a real comparative test though, because it could just be that there was less thermal mass on that one. Let's see where I was unsoldering before. Yeah, I was unsoldering here, so let's try this one. Okay. Bit of leaded solder in there. Bit of leaded solder in there. Right, let's go again. Yeah, you saw that was coming off. Just get a bit of the tip there. Okay, so I'm taking these off quite easily now without using tweezers. Actually, that's better than I would normally do. I have a couple of them on the tweezers there. Okay, let's go for something larger. Just remove this. Okay, try one of these big capacitors. See what this does. We know the other handle can do it with the little 18 watt power supply, but it was struggling to do it. Let's see if this does it any better. I'll add flux to make a like for like comparison, of course, as best I can. Flux. We'll do that again, so a bit of leaded solder. Okay. Let's try it from one end. This didn't work before. It probably won't work now. Not on the capacitor. Let's try it this way. Yeah, so that definitely came away quite a bit easier, and I'm not having to use a boost. I'm just on 38. I'm just on 380. There we have it. Yeah. So I think we can actually draw some conclusions from this now. The S20 with the supplied power supply, in my opinion, worked far better than I ever expected it would do for a low wattage power supply like this. There seems to be something about the design of the tip that makes it work very well at a low wattage. Whether it's just because it's physically smaller than this one, I don't know. You would assume that actually has more thermal mass once it's warmed up. So I can't say. I've never used one of these C115s before. I will get a suitable handle for my T26. I'm interested, and I have some tips I can use with it. But this one, I will definitely keep this. It's nice. It surprised me. I hope maybe it surprised you. And out of the box with the supplied power supply, it exceeded my expectations. This one, S60, not so sure. To be honest, guys, I don't know why my USB-C power supply suddenly plugged in. I had it connected to this, plugged it into the power. It made a bit of a funny noise. My USB microscope tripped off and on, which is on the same extension lead, and the power supply is no longer working. But this is still working, so it's not the soldering iron, it's the power supply. Could have just been a coincidence, in which case it's just unfortunate, because I would have liked to have tried it. But having said that, I then tried this tip in my T26D, which is an 85 watt, and it worked really, really well. So the tips are good. I don't honestly see the point in supplying this how they have, with a power supply that is clearly not rated for the soldering iron. And it definitely affected the performance having that power supply on. That's not just my opinion. I'm sure you will agree. I proved it. Yeah. This tip on a properly driven handle works great. This tip on the little power supply doesn't. And I just don't see the point. I honestly don't see the point. If you're going to sell this, then sell it with a power supply that is rated to drive it to its full capacity. And if it costs more, well, it costs more, but at least what you're buying will do what you expect it to do. Yeah. So this is, guys, and I hope maybe Sequre will take that on board, what I've said. This one, a definite yes. If you're looking for a miniature soldering iron like this, if you've never used one, it was a pleasure to use. It really surprised me, as you know. This one I supplied. I'm sorry, but I just can't recommend it for the reason I have stated. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed that. I hope you felt that was an honest review. I'm sure you'll have plenty of things to say in the comments below, so I look forward to hearing from you. And I'll just like to say now, I'll see you all soon on another electronics repair video. Ciao for now, guys.